Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Kim here. And today is our Antonio Makes Mondays, except this one is an Antonio Makes Mondays mini because I'm using one of Antonio's freebies, and you can get this by going to his website. You can also get this page by going to his Facebook group, joining the group. He's got a whole file folder full of free images to use. And all of the information for Antonio Makes is down in the description below. So this was one of his one-page wonders, which I love. I love these things because they really make you think a little bit differently. And they're about 4 inches by 5 inches. So right away I thought, okay, I'd like to make these into some fall tags. So I'm just going to cut these into 4 while I'm talking. Before I do that, I'm going to just show you that sometimes when I'm working with these type of images, I look at them right away and I know they're going to be a background. They're going to be glued down to something. They're not a focal point. They're not the, the highlight. They're more of a background style of image, just a one pattern for the background. So I know that I'm going to glue it down to something. And this is where I always use, and I don't want to get into big details here, but this is where I always use recycled paper that's been written on already before. I take the other side and I print on it. And usually paper that you get from like the bank, from your credit card company, from the government, anything like that is usually a nice quality paper. So it's a shame to me when it's just a page that's going to go into the landfill or to the shredder. I just as soon print it on the other side because you get a really nice quality of print on the paper that you're working with, and it's free paper. So because I knew I was going to turn this into tags, that's what I did. I printed it on paper that I already had printing on. Sometimes you get flyers in the mail too, and they only print on the one side, not on both sides. So I thought I would make these into tags. I should have probably cut this on my cutter, but it's way over there. Oh, yeah, that didn't cut very straight. Okay, I'll cut from here first. And just trim this up a little bit. So because I'm making them into tags, I wanted something for the back side of it. And so I'm just using a lightweight cardstock in, kind of a fallish brown color that I'm just going to glue the items down onto the cardstock. I'll leave the top. I don't know what I want to do yet. I'll probably, take out the corners and put some type of tab up here yet, but still a little undecided. But I've got my glue paper here. I'm going to glue a couple of these down so we have a couple to play with. Where is my glue stick? Yeah, once you've cut up these papers, they don't necessarily make sense unless you've got personal account numbers on them or something like that. Then you might want to cut that off or cut it out before you use it or cover it with something else. But I'm pretty sure that the chances of somebody lifting this piece of paper, and getting it off of this cardstock in hopes that they're going to find some personal information about me are pretty slim to none. And there you see, I've got it glued down, leaving a little bit of a bead on the outside here just to enhance it and frame it a little bit. So I'm going to do another one. Got this one here. Actually, I'm going to use this one. It's ready to go. So I just took one 12 by 12 piece of cardstock and just cut it up into, I think I got 6 pieces because there's 4 by 6 that I cut from. So that's pretty economical to get 6 tags out of one piece of paper. Now I will also go back and stitch around the edges of these only because that's what I like to do. You don't have to do that, but I'm just going to now put a little bit of a bead there. This one's a little bit bigger, or my paper's a little bit smaller, one or the other. It's just going to be very tight fit here. Yeah, I might have cut these a little bit wonky with my scissors here. And that's okay, because I can take my scissors now and trim this up a little bit. This one just won't have that large bead around the whole card. And even if it's not straight, it at least looks straight. So I'm going to get this out of the way now. And I kind of went back and forth as to how I wanted to decorate these. And because the background is, you know, quite intense as it is, I don't want to try to build on top of that. Otherwise, it just gets way too busy. So I figured, well, I'm going to put a piece of fabric of some sorts on top and then do a little collage on top of that. And I started pulling out all kinds of fabric. I had this orange, but it was kind of too orange for me. It is very nice and airy. I thought, you know, maybe sort of like a cheesecloth kind of effect to it. But it's a little bit too orange for what I wanted. I might use it on this one. So that's why it's still sitting on the table here. But I cut myself some pieces of burlap. Now this one is a little bit wonky here. I gotta fix it up. And the burlap I cut out of, I had a big feed sack from something. I think it was from peas or something. I paid 80 cents for this thing back a long time ago. And so I just cut out some little rectangle pieces from here. And I don't think you need to see me cut things out. So I'm just gonna get the pieces that I did cut out. And you can see there's no, I mean, that's not square by any means. I might square it off a little bit better than that, but it's not very square. So I'm just going to square it a little bit better than what it was. And this is where the salvage edge is. So I'm just going to cut that off so that it's reasonably rectangular shaped. And I'm just taking my fingers and pulling the threads out of this so I have that rough, frayed look, you know, distressed a little bit. That's the nice thing about burlap, is it does fray very nicely. And again, just kind of pulling it around a little bit. And I'll put these other two pieces aside for now. So that was my first thought, is that I wanted to put something like this on here. So I'll work on the two of them here side by side. And then I wanted some kind of focal point. I didn't want like a person on these, because to me, I wanted these just to be generic fall cards or journal cards or tags. So I thought I would use some kind of little flowers or a pumpkin, but I didn't have anything handy as far as a pumpkin. And so I figured, well, I'm going to make some yo-yos. And if you're not familiar with yo-yos, I'm going to make one with you first off. Now, when you're making yo-yos, you need to start out, well, I start out with a square. Unless you've got a die cut that you will cut, that you can cut circles, because we are going to work with a circle. But if you don't have a die cut that will cut through fabric, I start out with a square, and in this case, it's going to be 3 inches. So I'm just going to do a little tear here. I'll cut with my scissors. Can you see that I'm cutting it? And this is just a piece of, I think it was a cotton bed sheet, but it's very, very thin. It was used for a lot of years. So I just cut it up into pieces and use it wherever I want, some kind of crafty thing. So I'm going to cut this in half again, because it's just approximately 3 inches. Now a 3 inch will give me a 1.5 inch yo-yo. And if you don't know what a yo-yo is, I will show you right away. I'm just cleaning up the edges here a little bit. And I'm going to fold this in half one way and then fold it in half the other way. And I'm going to hold the point, which would be the center. If you were to look at it from here, you'd see it's the center. And this is what I do when I'm too lazy to get out the die cutter or too lazy to go find a jar lid. And once I've got the point that I'm holding on to at that end, I just round it from corner to corner here. So I cut off this corner. Just a very slight half moon kind of corner. And then you open it up, and it is reasonably round. It doesn't have to be perfect when you're doing yo-yos, not at all. But if you have a die cutting machine, like a Big Kick or a Sizzix or something that can, and you've got the tools to cut it, by all means you can. But this works in a pinch, and this also works great when you want certain measurements and sizes and you don't want to have to go and see if you've got the right size circle to cut out. You can cut out any size. So in doing yo-yos, if you cut out a 4-inch diameter circle, it's going to give you a 2-inch flower. If you cut a 3-inch, it's going to give you a 1.5 inch. So it'll be about half. So now taking a needle and thread, and I'm working with brown. It really doesn't matter what color you work with. And I'm just doing a single thread because it's just enough to gather it up. And going along the outside edge and the right side, not the wrong side. I'm just going along the outside edge here, very close to the edge as I can, and I'm just going around. Now, I'm not sewing like a seamstress. I'm sewing like a madman. And that's how I tell you, don't worry about it being perfect. In the end, it always works out. And don't gather it up too much. I mean, you can gather it a little bit, or, you know, if you find you're running out of thread. And as I was saying, I did only make it a single thread, so the end is hanging up here somewhere. Because you don't really, it's not about the sewing, it's just getting the shape of the yo-yo. And going around. Now I'm using brown thread. I would normally probably use white or ivory, but I wanted you to be able to see my stitches and see that they're not perfect. And I'm just going in and out, putting a whole bunch on the needle at once. But just making sure that you go very close to the edge. Now, some people, when they make these, but they're making them for other projects, they will fold and hem it as they stitch. I don't bother to do that because I know what I'm going to do with this in the end, and I know it's not going to be going through the wash, so I don't have to worry about it fraying too much. So I just go around till I get to the other end here. I know it's painful to watch. Don't worry, I'm only doing one, I think. And all the way around. Now, I had it knotted at the other end, so now I've got this one end loose. And I just put a couple of my fingers inside, and I just gently pull it, not too much. Sort of like a deflated balloon or an old-fashioned nightcap. Remember the old nightcaps they always wore in the cartoons? I'm sure they did wear them. And then when it starts to take a little bit more shape and get pulled together, I just start to tighten it up and flatten it out as I go along. And it looks like a big blob of fabric for now, until you get it completely tightened up. And once it's tight, I could tie a knot and just cut it right here and now, and then it would be done, just like that. But I realized I was making these with the idea that they were going to be like sunflowers. So my thread is still attached, and I'm just going to go to the center back with my thread. Oop, pulled it right off. Right off the needle. Oh gosh, I hope it threads quickly online while you're watching. Okay, good. Okay, so I've gone through the back. So it's on the back side of my yo-yo, and I'm just going to go right back through to the front again. So I haven't even knotted it. All I've done is just taking it from the front to the back and then back through again. So that kind of holds it in place. And now it's lying reasonably flat. If you wanted to, you can iron them flat. But for this project, I kind of want them to be a little bit puffy. So now I've got a collection of buttons that I want to use for my flower. So I had picked out the oranges, but it's kind of orange on orange. Same with the yellows. I do like the big brown because it reminds me of a sunflower, just like how these are. But as soon as I tried the green ones, I just loved it. So I'm going with the green for my project. Because yes, I did make a few of these ahead of time so that you wouldn't have to watch me make them all. So going once through the button and laying it down onto the top of my yo-yo, and then pushing it through the button, the other hole. I only use 2-hole buttons. I have this thing about 4-hole buttons. I don't like them. Twice the work. So now that I've got it through, I'm just going to tie a knot because that is enough to hold it on. And snip it off. My card is curling a little bit here. Okay, so now I have my sunflower, and somewhere here, oh yes, here we go. I've made a couple more. So I used kind of all different shades of green buttons on here, and it could have been brown buttons as well. So it's starting to look cute. So I'm going to take a little bit of hot glue, because I do like to work with hot glue, and I'm just going to drizzle it back and forth. This is just to hold my burlap in place. And then I'm going to take my sunflowers and glue them down. Now you can use your white glues, you know, your other adhesives that you normally use, Fabri-Tac or art glitter glue, whatever you like. And I'm just kind of overlapping them a little bit. And as I said, this card is curling a little bit only because it's wet or still damp from the glue, from the glue stick. I'm just bending it a little bit so I can get the shape better. And then I had this braided trim. You could use ribbon, you could use lace, whatever you have. I didn't want to take away from the bottom of the card, so I figured, you know, somewhere up in this area, because I'd pulled all this stuff out ahead of time to give it a try. So if I put it about there, then if you can see, I've got 4 tassels hanging down. So I know that I want to eventually cut that little piece off, and then I have to cut in between these 2 tassels here. So in order to do that, I separate the tassels and I see where they are. And then I just drizzle a little bit of hot glue back and forth. And you can, I just usually use my finger, but for the sake of this video, and so that you don't watch me burn myself, I will just use my glue gun itself to spread out the glue a little bit. And then same with on this end piece here, because I know I'm going to be doing some trimming here. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue and spread it out across the whole edge of the fabric, or the braided trim. So by now, yeah, this is pretty dry. So this is where I put the glue. I know you can't probably see it on camera, but it's right in between these 2 tassels. So now I can take my scissors and trim in between them. And I know that this is not going to fray. It's going to stay like this, and I can adjust it when I go to use it for another project. I can glue further, and I can place it in different spots depending on what it is I want to use it for. So even if I wanted to just have a single little tassel with a piece of braid, then I can now go on this side and glue on this side, and then I can cut it knowing it's not going to fray. So here's my little piece where I've cut that end off. I think it was this one, yeah. Oh, no, it was this one because it's nice and straight. And now this one I will trim only after I've got it stitched or glued down to my project. So I'm going to take this now and line it up where I want it to be. And just putting a little bit of glue now to get it in place. Lifting this up. And I ran out of glue. Okay, here we go. And you don't need much glue to glue this on. And I have the bottom of my tag done here now. So now I'm just going to, where this is lifting a little bit, I'm just going to snip it away. And that was the very edge. And I think I hadn't quite glued up to the edge. But now it's not going to fray. It's not going to come apart. And I have this tag with the 4 tassels hanging on the bottom of it. I don't necessarily have to make this into a tag, but I'm going to for this project. But I could also just leave this like this and save it to use as a journal topper. So I could even go one step further and have a journal where I have some fabric like this and do several layers underneath. Now, if you watched Caroline from Caroline's Craft Tree, she made some beautiful toppers by just layering fabrics one on top, and then she had a focal point on the top as well. So I could turn this into a really pretty journal cover and keep layering with different things. And I mean, this is very see-through fabric, so I would probably want something underneath it just to not have whatever's going through show through. But I could leave it like this as a topper as well. But I do like it as a tag. So I think I have to cut this one into tag shape. I've got a lot of this orange fabric, so I can easily make another set of these. That's what I mean. It's such a versatile little single freebie sheet from Antonio that you can make so many fun projects with it. Now, I happen to have a bed sheet. You know, I have every fabric in every color, in every style. I have a huge, huge collection. But you don't have to stop and go and buy a whole bed sheet. Go up and down the aisles at your local thrift shop and just look at clothing. There's so many, so many floral prints and stripe prints. You can buy one shirt and turn it into many, many projects. So, if it's a question of colors, of course you want to go with colors that you like and enjoy, and you'll find that you can interchange them and go back and forth with the same ones over many, many different projects, and certainly get your money's worth without having to buy a whole bed sheet or buying a whole, yardage of fabric. You don't need that. And many times, and I make jokes about it, but many times somebody will be wearing some shirt and I'll say, oh, I really like that shirt. Can I have it when you're done? And you'd be surprised how many times I get items for making other projects, and from my friends that would give up their clothing. Although now a lot of my friends don't give up their clothing; they use it in their projects. But this just shows you how easy it is to turn something like this into a bigger project just by enhancing it a little bit. And it really brings out the colors in Antonio's papers so easily that it makes it so much fun to work with. So now for this tag, all I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this into a tag shape. And since I have some of this fabric already in pieces, I could either, turn this into a sort of a top by stapling that down just like that, just a little snippet of it. Or I could punch a hole in here and make some strips of fabric, which is probably what I'll do with this, I think. and just make some little ties to go along the top. I like things to look a little bit on the shabby side. So I'm just going to take my hole punch a quick hole. Should probably ink all the edges on this too. It'll probably really enhance it a little bit more. Now, I only made a handful of yo-yos, so I have to make more off camera, and I'm not going to go through making them again. You've seen how it's done, so you just have to go back to the beginning and play it again if you want to make them along with me. But very easy to make. And I see one spot here that I need to glue that down a little bit better. And so I'm going to make the rest of these off camera, and I will show them in my next follow-up video. I seem to find that works really well to show you the end results a couple days later after you've watched the video, so you can see how I finish things up. And it gets me to finish things as well. So I just folded this in half. I'm going to bring it through and pull my two ends through and tighten it up. So I have this cute little shabby tag, just like that. Very easy. Lots of journaling space on the back, or I could take it one step further and make it a journal topper by adding it onto the front of a book cover. So that's my little project. You can see how easy that is to make, and I hope you found this fun and that you'll make some of these yourself. It doesn't have to be this sunflower fabric. It can be any fabric. Just start out with a pattern, and then a basic fabric in a nice color to complement it, and then make your yo-yos on top. And then decorate how you will. I could add other embellishments up here as well, but I really don't want to take away from this any further. I like it the way it is. So that's it for my little mini video. I hope you like it, Antonio. And I wish you all a very creative day and a creative week. It is Monday, and it is October 30th, and we've got snow today. But it won't stay. I know it won't stay. It's going up to +6, so it will be melted and gone, I'm sure, well in time for Halloween tomorrow. Tomorrow is Tuesday. It is Halloween, but I'm still going to try and get my Techniques Tuesday done tomorrow morning. So hopefully you'll be able to watch it at some point while you're waiting for the kiddos to come and hand out your treats. And the rest of the week will follow in place after that. So have a very creative day and a creative week, and I look forward to talking to all of you soon. Bye for now.